You stand in a conflict you didn't ask for, clutching a bouquet of empathy against cold calculation. Your heart races as you realize your kindness is being used as a weapon against you. It is a visceral feeling, like walking through a fog where every step feels deliberately misdirected. You try to understand them, yet your compassion only feeds the appetite of a truly toxic individual. Why does your heartfelt compassion feel like a growing weakness whenever it touches their hands? You have likely spent countless hours trying to understand a person who only seeks to undermine you. This is the inherent mismatch of tools in the brutal, invisible landscape of emotional warfare. Bringing gentle flowers to a sharp knife fight is a recipe for silent, agonizing defeat. When dealing with a narcissist, your traditional virtues become the very vulnerabilities they exploit. You have been playing by a set of rules that your opponent never intended to follow. To survive this psychological siege, you must look toward the cold, calculating wisdom of Machiavelli. It is time to stop offering understanding to those who only crave dominance and control. We are about to strip away the illusions of fairness and reveal the true nature of power. Within this darkness, we will uncover 7 psychological weapons designed to reclaim your inner peace. These strategies will transform you from a target into a fortress that no manipulator can breach. You will learn the art of the gray rock method to become utterly uninteresting to them. We will explore how strategic ambiguity can turn their own confusion back upon their manipulative schemes. Prepare yourself for the extinction burst, that final desperate explosion of toxic behavior before they quit. True power lies in therapeutic indifference, where their attempts to hurt you simply fail to land. But what if the very kindness you use as a shield is actually their primary target? To survive this fight, we must look to the architect of reality himself for a brand new map. We are taught to be good, but blind kindness is often the shortest path to total ruin. Do you want to live in the world as it should be or the world as it actually is? If the person across from you has no rules, why are you still following all of yours? 500 years ago, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli began mapping the dark alleys of human nature. He watched as noble intentions led to the collapse of great men and powerful empires alike. This master strategist realized that understanding power requires seeing the world without a sugar-coated lens. He wrote a book that would become the ultimate guide for navigating the treacherous waters of influence. Machiavelli argued that focusing on how people ought to be is a dangerous and fatal delusion. He famously claimed that neglecting what is done for what should be done leads to absolute ruin. His focus was entirely on preservation, protecting the self from those who would exploit your virtue. He acted as a pragmatist, providing a blueprint for survival in a world filled with manipulation. Instead of preaching morality, he explored the cold, hard mechanics of how power truly operates today. This shift from idealism to realism is your first step toward neutralizing the toxic people in your life. Machiavelli called the sovereign and strategic person the prince, a title you must now learn to claim. Being a prince means taking control of your environment instead of being a victim of its whims. It requires a calculated mind that values strategy over the fleeting comfort of being liked by everyone. For the prince, every interaction is a chess move designed to ensure stability and personal safety. He taught that it is much better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Love is a fickle bond that manipulators break whenever it suits their selfish and hidden agendas. Fear, or rather a healthy respect for your boundaries, is a much more reliable anchor for behavior. When a narcissist fears your reaction, they lose the leverage they once held over your emotional state. Machiavelli also understood that the person who controls the narrative ultimately controls the reality of others. If you allow a toxic individual to tell your story, you become a villain in their play. Regaining your power starts with reclaiming the narrative and projecting an image of quiet, unshakable strength. You must become the author of your own truth, leaving no room for their lies to breathe. This philosophy isn't about becoming a villain. It is about becoming a strategist in a hostile environment. It is the art of strategic self-defense, designed to protect your peace from those who seek chaos. He did not write his lessons for the saints. He wrote them for anyone ready to be the prince. Now, we will apply these ancient tactics to silence the noise of the modern manipulator. The greatest mistake you can make is assuming your manipulator has the same heart as you. Before you can use the weapons, you must understand the glitch in human nature that Machiavelli decoded. Machiavelli did not look at what people should be. He looked at what they truly are. He observed that men are generally ungrateful, quickly forgetting the kindness you have shown them. Why does their loyalty evaporate the moment you are no longer useful to their hidden agenda? They are inherently fickle, changing their allegiances as easily as the wind shifts direction. This volatility makes the toxic individual a moving target that your empathy simply cannot hit. These masters of manipulation are pretenders, wearing masks of virtue to hide their true intentions. Machiavelli noted they are dissemblers, skilled at concealing their nature while they study your weaknesses. Trying to program a computer with poetry simply does not work when they only recognize code. Your narcissist is a performer, staging a play where you are merely a supporting character. Most people are avoiders of danger, fleeing the moment a situation becomes difficult or risky. Yet they remain incredibly eager for gain, constantly hunting for the next advantage or reward. This combination makes them predatory, seeking maximum benefit while taking the absolute minimum risk. They only call when they need something because your value is tied to their personal profit. Machiavelli identified fear as a primary force that drives human behavior more than love ever could. Self-interest is the engine behind every move the toxic individual makes against your peace of mind. When you stop being a source of gain, they view you through the lens of threat. Their world is a balance sheet of power, where your emotions are considered an irrelevant currency. To survive, you must adopt therapeutic indifference, becoming as uninteresting as a plain gray rock. The gray rock method works because it starves their hunger for gain and emotional reaction. Prepare for an extinction burst, where their desperate need for control triggers a final tantrum. Use strategic ambiguity to keep them guessing, ensuring they can never use your honesty against you. Once you accept that they are driven by fear and gain, they become entirely predictable. And once they are predictable, they can be defeated by the very rules they play by. To dismantle the narcissist's control, we must embrace a philosophy most people are terrified to even consider. You have spent years trying to be loved, only to find your kindness weaponized against your spirit. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master strategist, offers a cold solution to this agonizing cycle of emotional manipulation. He famously taught that if a leader cannot be both, it is better to be feared than loved. In the realm of toxic relationships, this fear is not about cruelty. It is about establishing unbreakable boundaries. You might worry that becoming feared makes you the villain in your own life's complicated emotional story. However, for a toxic individual, fear is simply the realization that they can no longer control your reactions. Machiavelli argued that a true prince must not care about being feared by those who seek his downfall. This begins with strategic ambiguity, keeping your true thoughts hidden from the narcissist's constant, prying eyes. By employing the gray rock method, you become as uninteresting and unresponsive as a plain dull stone. When you stop providing emotional fuel, the toxic individual begins to fear your newfound icy silence. You must cultivate a sense of therapeutic indifference, showing them that their chaotic drama no longer affects you. Be prepared, because as you withdraw your energy, you will likely face a volatile extinction burst. This is their desperate, final attempt to regain control through escalated anger or renewed hollow affection. Stand your ground like a Machiavellian ruler, unswayed by their frantic attempts to breach your psychological walls. If they cannot love the real you, they must learn to fear the consequences of their disrespect. This shift in power dynamics transforms you from a vulnerable victim into a formidable, strategic adversary. The goal is not to become a bully, but to become someone who is impossible to manipulate. By prioritizing your own safety over their approval, you finally break the chains of their emotional tyranny. Once you stop fearing their reaction, they lose the only weapon they ever truly held over you. Most people think defending yourself means talking louder, but Machiavelli says your greatest power is silence. We begin our defense with Weapon 1, a tactical shift known as the strategy of the void. Machiavelli advised the prince to see the world exactly as it is, rather than how he wished. He warned that neglecting what is actually done for what ought to be done leads to ruin. To survive a narcissist, you must stop hoping for their change and observe their cold, predatory reality. This mental preparation allows you to vanish from their sight, becoming an unmappable shadow in their game. In modern psychology, this begins with the gray rock method, a technique of defensive and boring interaction. You become as uninteresting as a common pebble, offering nothing for the manipulator to grasp onto. But while gray rock is passive, Machiavellian silence is strategic, intentional, and far more powerful. Always remember that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience who you really are. Use strategic ambiguity to project a harmless mask while keeping your true intentions hidden in the dark. Think of yourself as a black hole, absorbing all light and reflecting nothing back for them. Can they manipulate a shadow that offers no resistance and provides no usable emotional information? Machiavelli taught that if you cannot destroy an enemy, you should never choose to merely annoy them. Silence prevents the minor irritations that trigger a predator's wrath without providing you a decisive victory. By offering a void, you force the narcissist to confront the terrifying mirror of their own emptiness. This state of therapeutic indifference is your shield, rendering their emotional barbs completely and utterly useless. Be warned, as your silence deepens, you will likely trigger a phenomenon called an extinction burst. This is the desperate tantrum a child throws when a parent finally stops giving in to demands. The narcissist will scream louder to get a reaction, but you must remain a silent, unmovable stone. What happens to the predator when they find no prey and no pulse to exploit for gain? They eventually starve, losing interest in a target that provides no emotional fuel or useful feedback. Unlike simple avoidance, your silence is a calculated choice designed to reclaim your personal, private territory. By becoming unmappable, you deny them the one thing they need to control you: a visible reaction. You have successfully entered the void, but do not mistake this temporary silence for true peace. In the darkness of your non-response, a storm is gathering strength within the frustrated, toxic individual. When you stop feeding the narcissist the reactions they crave, their psychological machinery begins to grind. This is the moment where the gray rock method truly tests the limits of your iron resolve. You must prepare for a phenomenon that psychologists and strategists alike call the intense extinction burst. Think of a spoiled child who suddenly hears the word no for the very first time. An extinction burst is that desperate tantrum thrown when a parent finally stops giving in. Your manipulator will now scream louder, hoping their usual chaos will force you back into submission. They are testing your boundaries, searching for even a single crack in your newly built wall. Machiavelli observed that if you cannot destroy an enemy, you should never settle for merely annoying them. Annoying a narcissist without fully neutralizing their influence only invites a more vicious and calculated counterattack. To survive this peak tension, you must wield the cold blade of therapeutic indifference with absolute precision. Every accusation they hurl and every tear they shed is a hook designed to pull you back. Maintaining strategic ambiguity means they can no longer predict how much more pressure you can actually take. They will cycle through every weapon in their arsenal, from manufactured guilt to sudden, explosive rage. This escalation is actually a sign of your victory, proving their old control mechanisms are finally dying. If you break now, you teach them exactly how much louder they need to scream next time. Stay unmoving as the noise reaches its highest pitch, becoming a statue in their sea of chaos. The void is not just silence. It is the refusal to be moved by their emotional theater. Remember that things always get significantly louder right before the silence of their defeat finally falls. There is a secret to being hidden in plain sight, turning your life into literal information armor. It is called the Grayman theory, a psychological concept focused on appearing completely unremarkable to those around you. Silence was just the start, but this weapon defines how you carry yourself when you finally speak. In the social jungle, being a Grayman is like wearing the perfect camouflage against emotional predators. Why would you ever give away the keys to your personal fortress to a manipulator so easily? Machiavelli understood this power deeply, advising every prince to always keep his own secret and private counsel. He famously warned that a prince must never let his true internal thoughts be known to others. By remaining a total mystery, you deny the narcissist the leverage they need to control your reality. Is your transparency actually helping you, or just making you an easier target for their calculated attacks? He who desires to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. Do not be the person who offers up their deepest vulnerabilities on a silver platter for them. Strategic ambiguity ensures that the toxic individual can never predict your next move or your emotional reaction. When you become unremarkable, you become invisible to the radar of those seeking someone to exploit. Every detail you share is potential ammunition that can be fired back at you at any moment. Keep your plans and joys locked away, using the gray rock method to maintain total indifference. This is not about being boring. It is about being strategically uninteresting to the wrong people. The narcissist thrives on your emotional reactions, but the Greyman offers them nothing but a void. By mastering this psychological camouflage, you neutralize their ability to find a single point of leverage. You are essentially starving the beast by refusing to provide the fuel it needs to survive. Embrace therapeutic indifference, showing the narcissist that their attempts to provoke you no longer have power. If they don't know what you value, they don't know what to threaten in your world. Your unremarkability is the ultimate weapon, turning your identity into a fortress of strategic silence. Sometimes you have to engage, but when you do, you must use weapon 3, verbal judo. What if, instead of fighting their lies, you simply agreed with every single one of them? Have you ever noticed how a fire quickly dies when it finally runs out of oxygen? In the knife fight of manipulation, your defense must be as fluid as a shifting tide. Fighting back directly only feeds the narcissist, giving them the emotional fuel they desperately crave from you. Judo is a martial arts concept that uses an opponent's own momentum and strength against them. Imagine your attacker lunging forward, only to find you moving with them instead of resisting. By refusing to push back, you leave the toxic individual stumbling through the void you created. This psychological maneuver transforms their aggressive energy into a weapon that works entirely in your favor. To master this, we turn to the technique known in strategic circles as fogging. Fogging is a technique where you agree with the reality of an attacker's statement without accepting guilt. It is like being a cloud. A sword can swing through you, but it never cuts. When a narcissist insults you, your therapeutic indifference becomes the mist that swallows their sharpest blades. You acknowledge their words without providing the defensive reaction they are waiting to exploit and manipulate. Why argue with a reality that isn't real when you can simply let it pass through? Machiavelli advised that a prince should appear to be whatever people need him to be right then. You remain true to your own objectives while presenting a surface that mirrors their chaotic expectations. This strategic ambiguity allows you to navigate the storm without ever losing your internal moral compass. Machiavelli wrote that prudence consists in knowing how to distinguish the character of various human troubles. True wisdom is for choice to take the lesser evil when faced with a toxic extinction burst. By agreeing with the grain of truth in their lie, you dismantle their entire legal case. They expect a war, but you offer a mirror that reflects their own absurdity back at them. This neutralizes their aggression, turning their intended explosion into a harmless puff of gray, cold smoke. You are using the gray rock method not just as silence, but as an active, yielding shield. Their momentum carries them past you, leaving them exhausted while you remain perfectly calm and centered. The attacker finds no purchase in your soul, and their narrative simply dissolves into the thick fog. You have mastered the art of being present, without being a target for their hidden daggers. When you agree without guilt, the attack has nowhere to land, it just fogs over. Your strategic surrender of the moment ensures your ultimate victory in the long, psychological game. Now you are no longer a victim in their theater, but the silent director of the play. You have mastered the silence, but the theater around you remains a chaotic storm of manipulation. Now you must learn to navigate the storm by identifying which winds demand your immediate focus. When a narcissist or toxic individual strikes, your overwhelming instinct is to fight every single fire. However, Machiavelli suggests that true power lies in a skill most people completely overlook today. He defined prudence as the ability to distinguish the specific character of the troubles you face. Not every attack is a crisis, and not every manipulator deserves your precious emotional energy. Some troubles are like passing summer storms, while others are floods designed to sweep you away. You must categorize these threats based on the long-term damage they could inflict upon your peace. A narcissist's tantrum is often just noise, whereas their legal threats might require a strategic response. If you treat every minor insult like a declaration of war, you will eventually burn out. To survive, you must consciously choose the lesser evil when faced with impossible or painful options. This isn't about finding a perfect solution, but about selecting the path of least resistance. Imagine being cornered by two toxic people and choosing the one who offers the easiest exit. This calculated choice preserves your strength for the battles that actually matter for your long-term survival. Many fear this cold logic, yet it is the only way to protect your mental sanctuary. When you understand the character of your troubles, the manipulator's power over you begins to fade. You no longer react with panic, but with the calm precision of a seasoned chess master. Sometimes, the lesser evil means letting a lie stand to avoid a much larger confrontation. Other times, it means enduring a temporary extinction burst to reach the lasting silence of peace. Every decision you make should be a brick in the fortress protecting your inner world. Machiavelli knew that perfection is a trap, so we must settle for the most strategic outcome. By accepting the lesser evil, you deny the narcissists the total victory they so desperately crave. This is not surrender. It is the ultimate expression of therapeutic indifference toward their chaos. You are prioritizing your sanity over the need to be right in a broken situation. As you weigh your options, remember that your peace is the most valuable currency you possess. The goal is to exit the toxic theater with as much of yourself intact as possible. Stop looking for the good option and start looking for the one that hurts you least. This mindset shifts you from a victim of circumstance to a master of your own destiny. Prudence is your shield against the overwhelming noise of those who wish to disrupt you. Now that you can prioritize your battles, you are ready to master the final defense. Think about why high-end luxury brands are so difficult to find in an ordinary store. Their value is not just in craftsmanship, but in the calculated scarcity they strictly maintain. It is time for you to become that rarity by wielding weapon 4, scarcity. The toxic individual thrives because they believe you are always within their immediate reach. They have grown accustomed to your presence, treating your emotional labor like a common commodity. To break this cycle, you must stop being a resource and start being a privilege. If you are always available, why should they ever respect the time you give them? Consider a fire that eventually dies because the wood has been completely removed from it. By withdrawing your presence, you starve the narcissist of the fuel they need to burn. True power comes from the internal realization that you do not need their validation. Machiavelli understood that the human heart reacts differently to distance than it does to proximity. He noted that absence diminishes mediocre passions while it actually increases great ones. If their interest in you is shallow, your absence will make their control simply fade. But if they truly value your power, your scarcity will make you seem infinitely more precious. Utilize strategic ambiguity by not announcing your departure from their daily, chaotic theater. Use the gray rock method to make every interaction feel like a hollow, empty shell. Make your responses short, infrequent, and utterly devoid of the emotional energy they crave. Prepare for an extinction burst as they fight to regain the control you are removing. Ask yourself if you want to be a common commodity or a rare, untouchable treasure. This is the practice of therapeutic indifference, where their actions no longer dictate your peace. Remember the fickle nature of people we discussed when we first started this journey. Disrupt their predictable pattern by choosing when and how you show up for them. Every time you decline an interaction, you are reclaiming a piece of your stolen sovereignty. Like a prince reclaiming his throne, you must set the terms of your own engagement. By removing yourself, you are not just leaving. You are systematically increasing your own value. Master the art of being gone, and you will finally control the game. Machiavelli said there are two ways to fight, as a man and as a beast. Sometimes the man isn't enough to survive the calculated cruelty of a toxic individual. Beyond the gray rock method, Weapon 5 provides the necessary power of the surgical strike. Machiavelli fundamentally believed that every conflict is won either by law or by force. He observed that fighting by law is the natural and civilized method for all men. However, when laws fail, fighting by force becomes the necessary path for the beast. To defeat a predator, you must occasionally step beyond the boundaries of polite social rules. How much longer will you allow them to hide in the shadows of polite conversation? Are you finally ready to stop being the victim and start being the force? Machiavelli warned that men must either be treated with great kindness or be utterly crushed. He argued that people will seek revenge for light injuries but cannot for serious ones. If you strike at a manipulator, your blow must be decisive enough to end the game. This strategy is like turning the bright lights on a cockroach in a dark room. The spotlight technique starts by asking an aggressor to explain the meaning of a snide comment. Force them to explain their subtle insults clearly until their hidden malice is exposed to everyone. This public accountability forces the narcissist to defend a mask that is rapidly slipping away. By controlling this reality, you dismantle the false narrative they have spent months carefully building. Use therapeutic indifference as you watch their social standing crumble under the weight of truth. The spotlight is the one thing a predator cannot survive in the cold light of day. Once their social mask is gone, the manipulator is finished and their power is broken. The manipulator's mask has shattered, but now you face a critical strategic crossroads in your journey. To navigate this war, we must look to Machiavelli's brutal and timeless blueprint for human conflict. He famously taught that there are exactly two ways for an individual to engage in a fight. The first method is fighting by law, which Machiavelli considered a path perfectly natural to men. In your modern world, this means relying on social norms, professional politeness, and standard HR procedures. You try to resolve the conflict with logic, hoping the toxic individual respects the same rules. This approach assumes your opponent shares your values and desires a peaceful, rational resolution. However, when you face a true predator, these civilized boundaries often start to crumble and fail. You quickly realize that your appeals to fairness are falling on deaf and highly manipulative ears. When the law fails to protect you, Machiavelli argues you must turn to the beast's way. This second method is the path of force, defined by direct confrontation and unyielding public exposure. Move beyond the gray rock method when soft diplomacy fails and aggression becomes a strategic necessity. You must recognize the exact moment when being polite becomes a dangerous and costly liability. Machiavelli's most chilling advice is that men must either be well treated or completely crushed. If you leave a manipulator only partially wounded, they will inevitably return to seek their revenge. A half-hearted defense during an extinction burst proves to the narcissist that your boundaries are weak. You either offer them a graceful exit or ensure they have no power left to harm. For a narcissist, anything less than total victory feels like a direct invitation to strike back. Your goal is never to be cruel, but to be undeniably effective in your strategic defense. Law is your shield for the civilized, while force is your sword for the truly savage. Use strategic ambiguity to mask your next move as you transition from law to raw force. Practice therapeutic indifference as you decide if you are dealing with a man or a beast. While they are busy weaving lies, you must be busy building an unbreakable paper trail. The spotlight exposes them, but Weapon 6 ensures they can never crawl back into the darkness. This is the final layer of your defense. A strategy we call the documentation bomb. In a toxic environment, your memory is a liability that a master manipulator will exploit. Why rely on a flickering memory when you can rely on the cold, hard certainty of evidence? Machiavelli famously advised that a wise prince must always rely on his own arms. Relying on the testimony of others or the fairness of a system is a dangerous gamble. Your own arms in this psychological war are the written records you meticulously maintain. Documentation is the armor they cannot pierce, and the sword they cannot possibly dodge. Every conversation, every subtle threat, and every shifting goalpost must be captured in ink. The documentation bomb involves providing email summaries of all conversations as a record of facts. By sending these summaries, you transform a fleeting moment into an unchangeable record of facts. Ask yourself, can a narcissist really gaslight an email that includes a clear timestamp? This method forces the manipulator to either agree with the facts or publicly contest them. Most toxic individuals will retreat when faced with a reality they can no longer distort. Use these summaries to strip away their power and reclaim control of the narrative. This isn't just about being organized. It is about creating a factual reality they cannot escape. While they play with emotions, you are operating with the precision of a master strategist. Therapeutic indifference allows you to record their outbursts without being affected by their venom. You are no longer a victim of their chaos, but a curator of their downfall. Even the most skilled narcissist struggles to manipulate a chain of documented evidence. Your documentation acts as a digital leash, keeping their behavior confined to the truth. When the time is right, this collection of facts becomes your most lethal weapon. Like Machiavelli's prince, you have secured your position using only your own strength and arms. In the world of Machiavelli, facts aren't just information, they are literal arms for your defense. When they try to destroy your name, your first instinct is to yell and fight back immediately. But Machiavelli suggests your best defense is actually being loved by everyone around you instead of shouting. The final defense against a toxic individual isn't about the predator at all. It is a fortress. Welcome to Weapon 7, where we build a reputation that no lie can ever penetrate or shatter. Imagine a smear campaign attempting to stick to a person who is genuinely respected by the collective. A narcissist will try to isolate you by weaving a web of lies to turn others away. You might feel the urge to launch a frantic self-defense, but that only feeds their chaotic fire. Instead, we turn to the classic wisdom of the prince to master the art of public perception. Machiavelli explicitly stated that a prince must avoid being hated by his own people at all costs. While hatred is a poison that dissolves power, being feared is often a strategic necessity for control. He argued that a leader should not care about being feared, provided he avoids the people's hatred. This distinction is vital when you are navigating the murky waters of a toxic smear campaign today. If you react with rage, you become the villain they've described, fulfilling their dark and twisted prophecy. But if you remain calm and consistent, the manipulator's frantic accusations begin to look like desperate madness. Machiavelli taught that the best fortress any prince can possess is the genuine affection of his people. Your fortress is not built of cold stone, but of the goodwill and trust you earn daily. When the toxic individual whispers lies, your history of integrity acts as an unbreakable shield of truth. Who would believe a known liar over a proven leader who has shown nothing but steady grace? This is the long game of character over combat, where silence speaks louder than any frantic scream. By practicing therapeutic indifference, you show the world that their petty drama cannot touch your inner peace. Your consistent behavior serves as a silent witness, exposing the manipulator's lies without you saying a word. Think of your reputation as a stone fortress rather than a flimsy wall made of reactive paper. As they spiral into an extinction burst, your steady presence becomes a beacon of truth for others. They want a war of words, but you offer a masterclass in quiet, unshakable dignity and strength. A smear campaign cannot stick to a person who is genuinely respected and loved by the collective. You have transformed from a victim into a person of influence, protected by the very people around you. The architect of reality knows that your public image is your final and most powerful line of defense. Now that your fortress is built, the predator finds themselves locked out in the cold, powerless, and alone. The game ends the moment you walk off the board without an explanation or a final argument. You have built your fortress and mastered the weapons, but now you must execute the final move. Welcome to the Machiavellian exit, the ultimate turning point where you choose to stop playing their game. Most people think they need the last word, but Machiavelli understands that silence is far more lethal. Why give a toxic individual the last word when you can give them nothing but your absence? You have survived the extinction burst and stood firm against the storm of their manipulative chaos. Now you must transition from active defense to a cold and final departure from their twisted reality. Think of this as unplugging a machine that has been feeding off your energy for far too long. Your narcissist thrives on your reactions, even your anger, because any attention is fuel for their ego. By using the gray rock method, you have already become as uninteresting as a plain, dull stone. But the Machiavellian exit goes further, removing the board entirely so they have nowhere left to play. Strategic ambiguity keeps them guessing while you quietly pack your emotional bags and prepare to leave. Do they deserve your detailed explanation, or do they simply deserve the void of your total silence? Remember that Machiavelli once wrote that it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Your title as their victim only holds power if you continue to honor the role they assigned you. Stripping them of that honor means walking away without providing the closure they crave to stay relevant. True therapeutic indifference means you no longer care enough to explain why you are finally moving on. They will hunt for a reaction, a tear, or a scream, but they will find only an empty room. This is the ultimate power move because it denies the manipulator the one thing they need: control. You are not running away in fear. You are making a calculated and sovereign choice to exist elsewhere. Every word you speak in your defense is a gift of information they can use against you later. By saying nothing, you leave them to drown in the silence of their own making and failed schemes. The fortress you built in the previous stage now serves as the launch pad for your final escape. No grand speeches are required when your actions speak with the cold finality of an iron door closing. You have turned the tables by becoming the one who determines when the interaction is officially over. They are left holding a script for a play that you have already walked out of permanently. Closure is a gift they don't deserve, and your denial of it is your final victory. The battle is over, the weapons are stowed, and the architect of your life is finally you. Step into the light of your new freedom and never look back at the wreckage you left behind. The game is finished because you decided it was time to finally and completely stop playing. Is it truly better to be a harmless sheep or a wolf who chooses not to bite? You are no longer the person who walked into this video with a bouquet for a knife fight. Machiavelli teaches us that true virtue is not the absence of power, but the mastery of it. You have evolved from a target into a strategist, navigating the complex world of the narcissist with precision. By adopting the gray rock method, you turned yourself into an uninteresting stone that yields no emotional gold. You learned that strategic ambiguity is a shield, keeping your true intentions hidden from any toxic individual. Being harmless is not a virtue if you lack the actual capacity to defend your own psychological borders. Can true virtue even exist without having the power to choose a different, much darker path? Think of yourself as a master swordsman who keeps his deadly blade sheathed by deliberate choice. These dark strategies are not weapons of malice, but essential tools for your long-term self-protection. You survive the chaos of the extinction burst by maintaining a steady, unwavering sense of therapeutic indifference. Now, you stand ready to finally become the sole architect of your own personal and emotional reality. You understand that a wall is not an act of aggression, but a necessary boundary for survival. Knowledge of the shadow does not make you evil. It simply makes you impossible to manipulate. Strength is the quiet confidence of knowing exactly how to strike, but choosing to walk away. The world will always contain those who seek to use your empathy as a bridge to destruction. By mastering these Machiavellian arts, you have ensured that bridge will never be built again. Are you ready to step forward and be the architect of your own sovereign reality? You have traded your naive bouquet for a calculated map of the battlefield you once feared. True peace is found when you are formidable enough that no one dares to disturb it. This is how you reclaim your life and finally become truly and undeniably formidable. This is just the beginning of your path toward mastering the art of the formidable. However, there are some truths the algorithm simply does not want you to ever see. Information is the ultimate weapon, but the public feed often keeps the sharpest blades hidden. The current system is designed to suppress the most powerful and raw tactical insights available. Standard platforms often filter out the gray rock techniques required to truly dismantle a narcissist. To bypass these digital gatekeepers, I have established a secure space for the truly dedicated. You are invited to step beyond the surface and enter the exclusive world of the architect. Look for the join button to claim your place among those who seek total clarity. The architect level is where we strip away the filters and examine the raw blueprint. By joining, you gain immediate access to exclusive videos that the standard algorithm would never allow. These uncensored sessions dive deeper into Machiavellian tactics and therapeutic indifference than this public channel. Consider the difference between merely reading a map and actually owning the entire territory yourself. While others graze on the surface, you will be dissecting the core mechanics of human nature. Think of this as a membership to an underground society of world-class strategic thinkers. Are you finally ready to see the uncensored version of the world as it is? Do you want to stay with the surface level, or do you want the full blueprint? True power belongs to those who are willing to seek information where others fear to tread. Learn to navigate the extinction burst and master strategic ambiguity at the elite architect level. Click that join button now to secure your access to the most formidable insights available. Your transformation is far from over, and I will see you on the other side.